7 things mentally strong people never beg for. Stoicism. Mental strength is not about becoming cold, emotionless, or disconnected from the world. It is about developing the inner discipline to stop chasing what is not yours to control. Stoicism teaches that a powerful life begins when you stop placing your peace in the hands of other people. There are certain things mentally strong people never beg for. They may desire them. They may appreciate them. They may work hard to earn them. But they refuse to humiliate themselves, abandon their values, or sacrifice their self-respect just to receive them. The first thing mentally strong people never beg for is attention. If someone constantly ignores you, makes you feel invisible, or only notices you when it is convenient for them, a mentally strong person does not keep demanding attention. Stoicism teaches us to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. You can control how you behave, what you give, and where you place your energy. You cannot control whether another person chooses to notice you. Begging for attention creates a dangerous cycle. You send another message. You explain yourself again. You try harder. You become more available. And eventually, your emotional state becomes dependent on someone else's response. A mentally strong person steps back. This does not mean they do not care. It means they understand their value does not increase because someone finally gives them attention. The second thing mentally strong people never beg for is respect. Respect cannot be permanently demanded. It has to exist within the relationship itself. If you repeatedly have to convince someone to treat you with basic dignity, the problem is no longer a lack of explanation. The problem is the relationship. This is where Stoicism becomes practical. Instead of asking, "How do I make them respect me?" ask, "What behavior will I accept from them?" That shift changes everything. Mentally strong people understand that self-respect comes before external respect. They do not threaten, plead, manipulate, or create endless arguments just to force someone to value them. They simply observe behavior, establish boundaries, and make decisions. Because one of the greatest lessons of Stoicism is this: you do not need to control other people's behavior when you can control your response to it. And when you stop begging for attention and respect, you begin to discover something far more valuable: inner peace. The third thing mentally strong people never beg for is love. This may be one of the hardest lessons to accept because everyone wants to feel loved, wanted, and emotionally important to someone. But Stoicism teaches us that we should never surrender our dignity in exchange for affection. Mentally strong people understand the difference between earning love through genuine connection and begging someone to love them. If you constantly have to convince someone to stay, repeatedly ask them to care, or keep proving that you are worthy of their affection, eventually you lose yourself in the process. You start asking questions like, "What should I change? Why am I not enough? What can I do to make them choose me?" But a mentally strong person asks a different question. Why am I trying to force something that should exist naturally? That is the Stoic mindset. You cannot command another person's heart. You cannot control their feelings. You cannot force emotional connection through persistence. What you can control is your character, your standards, and your decision to walk away from situations that continuously destroy your peace. The fourth thing mentally strong people never beg for is an apology. Of course, sincere apologies matter. Accountability matters. But there is a difference between giving someone the opportunity to recognize their mistake and desperately demanding that they admit they were wrong. Sometimes people know exactly what they did. They simply do not care enough to take responsibility. This is where Stoicism gives you an uncomfortable but powerful lesson. Closure does not always come from the person who hurt you. You may never receive the apology you deserve. You may never hear, "I was wrong." You may never get an explanation that makes everything suddenly make sense. And mentally strong people learn to live with that reality. They do not allow another person's refusal to apologize to control their emotional future. Instead, they accept what happened, learn from it, establish stronger boundaries, and continue moving forward. The fifth thing mentally strong people never beg for is someone's time. If a person genuinely values your presence, you should not constantly have to chase them for a few minutes of their attention. Everyone becomes busy. Everyone has responsibilities. But consistent effort reveals priorities. Stoicism teaches us to judge reality by what is actually happening, not by what we desperately wish were happening. Watch actions. Listen to patterns. Pay attention to consistency. Mentally strong people do not spend their lives trying to convince someone to make space for them. They understand that their time is valuable too. When you stop begging for love, apologies, and someone's time, you stop negotiating against yourself. And that is where real mental strength begins. The sixth thing mentally strong people never beg for is validation. They do not need everyone to agree with them, praise them, approve of their choices, or constantly remind them that they are doing well. Stoicism teaches that your character should not depend on the opinions of other people. If you build your identity around external validation, you give other people control over your emotions. One compliment makes you feel powerful. One criticism destroys your confidence. One person approves of your decision and suddenly you believe it was correct. Another person disagrees and you begin doubting yourself. That is not freedom. A mentally strong person listens to feedback, but does not become dependent on it. They can accept criticism without collapsing and accept praise without becoming arrogant. They ask themselves, did I act according to my values? If the answer is yes, they can continue walking forward. The seventh thing mentally strong people never beg for is a place in someone's life. This is perhaps the ultimate lesson of Stoicism. You should never have to repeatedly convince someone that you deserve a place in their world. Relationships require effort, but they should not require the destruction of your self-worth. If someone chooses to leave, let them leave. If someone chooses not to appreciate you, accept it. If someone repeatedly shows you that you are not a priority, believe their actions. This does not mean becoming bitter. It means becoming realistic. Stoicism teaches acceptance of reality instead of endless resistance against it. You cannot force people to stay. You cannot force people to care. You cannot force people to understand your value. But you can decide what you do next. You can walk away without revenge. You can remain silent without hatred. You can forgive without returning to the same situation. You can lose someone without losing yourself. That is genuine mental strength. So remember the 7 things mentally strong people never beg for: attention, respect, love, an apology, someone's time, validation, and a place in someone's life. Wanting these things is human. Begging for them is where you begin surrendering your power. The Stoic does not say, I need nothing. The Stoic says, I will appreciate what comes, but I will not destroy myself chasing what refuses to stay. Your peace is valuable. Your dignity is valuable. Your time is valuable. And the moment you truly understand that, you stop begging, and you start living with strength, discipline, and freedom. That is the essence of Stoicism. There is another important lesson hidden inside the philosophy of Stoicism. Mentally strong people do not beg life to become easier. They understand that difficulty is not always a punishment. Sometimes difficulty is the training ground where mental strength is developed. When life becomes unfair, a weak mindset asks, why is this happening to me? A stronger mindset asks, what can I learn from this? That single question can completely change your perspective. Mentally strong people do not beg for a life without rejection, failure, disappointment, or criticism. They know these experiences are unavoidable. Instead, they build themselves to become stronger than the circumstances surrounding them. This is one of the most practical lessons of Stoicism. You cannot control whether someone rejects you. You cannot control whether someone misunderstands you. You cannot control whether your plans fail. You cannot control whether another person recognizes your effort. But you can control your discipline. You can control your response. You can control whether you allow disappointment to turn into bitterness. And you can control whether you continue moving forward. A mentally strong person understands that self-respect is not something another person gives you. It is something you demonstrate through your decisions. Sometimes strength means speaking. Sometimes strength means staying silent. Sometimes strength means fighting for something. And sometimes strength means walking away. Stoicism is not about having no emotions. It is about refusing to become a slave to your emotions. When you stop begging for things outside your control, you recover something far more valuable: your freedom. And once you have that freedom, other people's approval becomes optional, not necessary.